their rock bottom at several points in their life, and it doesn't have to be, you know, drugs or alcohol, but maybe it's something different for you. For me, it was just not knowing my worth. I really did not know my worth at all. I grew up being told I was loved. You know, it wasn't like I had this awful background. I just felt like my parents were so involved with religion that I struggled feeling like I didn't fit in. I didn't know my place. I was either like all or nothing. Like I was either going to heaven or I was a sinner and I was an awful person. So I had no value. And so I was bartending. I was working as a clothing manager at a retail manager at a clothing store. And at that time, I was pretty much at the bottom. Like when I say bottomed out, like alcohol every night, like that was my coping mechanism. I was on antidepressants. I had anxiety attacks at work on a regular basis. I was a hot mess, to say the least. And one day I was like, I think I'm going to move. I think I need to get out of this scene, whatever. Like I needed to get out. But then I found out I was pregnant. So unplanned pregnancy, cue, frustration, scared, fear, more depression, anxiety up. You know what? I was terrified. I was the person that said I never wanted kids, said it was just never going to happen. I did not want kids. I literally have chills now thinking about it. I just remember finding out I was pregnant and going, what am I going to do? I had dated, her father before, this baby's father. We had kind of been taking a break and I was like freaking out. Like, how is he going to respond? Whatever. I closed everybody off. I was terrified. But fast forward, things worked out between us. I was like, this is going to work. I went and got a house. I'm like, I quit smoking. I was like, this is going to be my answer. This is it, right? People have kids and then they get the mom gene and that's what they do and they find their happy place, right? So that was my plan. I was like, great, I'm not smoking. I'm not drinking. I can focus. I'm going to get my life back on track. But being pregnant, I dealt with sickness. My whole pregnancy, I was miserable. All my friends deserted me. I was like, because I was such a partier, nobody had kids, and so they couldn't relate to the pregnancy. Like, I was sitting at home, everybody was still going out, they didn't get it. There was no connection anymore. So I didn't really have any friends. I sat at home. I ended up having to not work for the last part of my pregnancy because we were worried about early delivery. I struggled with early contractions. I was super, super sick, like throwing up every day through my pregnancy. It was not fun. And I was like, man, this is going to be it though. Like, I'm going to have her and things are going to be great. We were living in this dinky little house that we could barely afford. I didn't want to tell my boyfriend at the time, when we got together, that I couldn't afford it. So I was digging into my savings, trying to pay rent, because I was really proud and I didn't want to tell him. So anyway, accumulating debt. After I had Sophia, my first daughter, the moment I had her, I fell into an even worse state of depression. And I was miserable. Nobody ever told me about postpartum depression, or maybe they did and I just didn't understand it, or I didn't like think it was a thing. And before I had been depressed and struggled with anxiety, but it was a whole different feeling having this child sitting in the room where I delivered her. I had a really, really rough delivery, a really long delivery. Won't even go into that story, but when she was born and they said, do you want to hold her? And I said, no. And I still think about that. I'm like, really? Like, did I miss the mom gene or something? Like, what happened? Like, the thing didn't click, right? So we get sent home with this little girl and it was like, it didn't happen. Like, I'm not happy. Like, now I'm stuck at home trying to raise this kid and like, I have no purpose. Like, I feel so lost. Like, I want to take care of this little girl and give her everything, but I feel like I don't even know who I am. I would sit on the couch and binge eat Oreos and watch stupid television shows till really late. My boyfriend was working really long hours. And I just felt isolated. I felt alone. I had no friends. I was reconnecting with my family slowly, but because of my choices in the past, it was a very slow coming to reconnect. And I sat there going, this can't be it, right? Like, this is it? Like, you have kids and this is it? You feel depressed and miserable and sad and you just have to keep these things alive, right? You have to keep them alive somehow and raise them to be good humans. And so for the first couple months, I struggled through. I would cry through feedings. I would sit in my room and closet and cry when she went to bed. I hated my body. I hated everything about myself. I hated what pregnancy had done to me. And I was stuck. I was really, really stuck. So about 3 months after having her, I decided, I just need to get out of the house. I'm going to go back to work. And so I decided I was going to go back to work. Aaron, my boyfriend at the time, her father, watched her while I went to work. And then I was just miserable again. I was like, that didn't fix anything. Now I'm not home raising my baby. Now we're financially dependent on this income. And so she was about 6 months old and I was working for about 3 months. And I looked in the mirror. I remember one night looking in the mirror, and it was a full-length mirror in her room. I had laid her down. I had nursed her and laid her down. She was sleeping. And I remember I was wearing a sports bra and shorts, and I looked in the mirror as I walked out of her room, and I just started ripping myself apart. I absolutely hated the person that I was. And even though I vowed that I was going to be the best mom, and I was going to be the strong, independent woman, like raising a family, I was so broken inside, and I wasn't taking care of myself. And I looked in the mirror, and I was like, you're fat, you're ugly, like, who would even want that? Like, had no value of myself. And I was like, I need some help. Like, I need some help. I sought out therapy. I didn't realize until that point that I was really struggling with postpartum depression in a major way. And then I started, what girls do. We find like really amazing people on social media and we follow them. We're like, oh, they're so fit and they're so happy. And so I found this girl on Instagram, and she was posting about being a new mom and losing baby weight and loving being a stay-at-home mom and how she was earning this income. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't get that mom gene. Like, why is that girl so happy? Like, motherhood is sad and hard and lonely and all this stuff. And she was posting all these things. So she actually reached out to me. I started following her and I commented on a few pictures, and she reached out to me, and I ignored her. I completely ignored her. I was like, she's so happy and wonderful, and like, I have nothing, like, nope, I'm just gonna ignore her because she's too happy for me. Well, she invited me a few times to an event kind of like this. It was a phone call to call in and listen to her story, and I listened 3 times. She invited me, and I listened to her story, and she struggled with similar things: depression, anxiety, all this stuff. And I watched her continue to get happier and to continue loving her body for about 6 months till my daughter was 1. But then that point came where I realized my daughter was going to grow up seeing a broken mom, and there was no way that I could be the best mom to her if I wasn't even taking care of myself. And so I reached out to this woman and I said, help me, like, I really need help. And I signed up to be a lifestyle coach that day. I didn't know what it meant. I was still on antidepressants. I was still really scared. I was working 60 hours a week. And she said, you're going to get this fitness program. I'm going to help you with what to eat to get back on track, because I honestly was on the don't eat all day because I felt guilty and hated my body, and then eat a whole package of Oreos at night. That was my diet. And if it wasn't Oreos, it was some other type of carbohydrates that were awful for me. So I signed up, I invested, I was like, I'm going to do this. And it hadn't been without like a really scary, what is my boyfriend going to think? I'm spending money, like, ugh. I don't know what this is going to look like, but I was all in. I was like, if this is going to save my life, like if this is going to save me and be where I can put my focus, put my energy, and pull myself out of this well I've fallen in of depression, I'm going to do it. So very quickly within the first month, I was like, this is it. I found a team. I found a support system. I met some of my best friends. My coach, the girl that I signed up with, was there for me. She was checking in with me. She was asking how I was feeling, how I was doing. She was checking in to see if I was, working out. And I'm not going to say it was easy, but it got me accountable and it helped me show up for me. And that was the biggest light bulb switch of like, if I take care of myself, I can be a better mom. I can be a better spouse. I can take care of myself, and in taking care of me, I'm taking care of them better. And it was just this light bulb moment where I was like, I feel really good. I feel happy. I had a purpose. I had like a focus. So within 6 months, I left my job outside of the home. I had earned enough and was making enough that we were able to let our nanny go, who was watching our daughter while I was working, somebody else raising my kid. I was able to let her go, come home, and do this while raising my daughter. And so it was really the switch of just wanting something more for me, feeling the purpose behind sharing my story, even though I had a lot of struggles and wasn't perfect. I felt like I fit in somewhere, and I felt like I had a purpose, and I felt like I had a voice again. I didn't feel as isolated because I had people surrounding me that really cared and really supported me. And I was able to share my message, my real raw story, even though I still was eating donuts and still eating pizza and not perfect, and I still do those things. I was able to just really pull myself out of a really, really hard spot because of the community that I found. So within 6 months, I quit my job, and now 3.5 years in, I've gone through another pregnancy. Struggled with postpartum depression, a really sick pregnancy, and this kept me on track somewhat to have a healthier, better pregnancy. It also kept me aware of knowing that I might deal with depression, and I had a way easier time dealing with it. Not that it's easy, but I was able to have a voice and really able to get through it because I had support from this team. And I've now way out earned my old job. 3.5 years in, we have an amazing team. It is my family. It's not just, coworkers at a job. They are my support system. They are my family. And now I get to lead and support and mentor other women, much like you guys, joining the Sneak Peek to do the same thing. So that was really long-winded, but I appreciate you guys listening to my story. I have my good days. I have my bad days. I have my days that I don't want to work out. And lifestyle coaching to me is about creating freedom in my life, creating freedom for my kids' lives, and for my family to experience more, to have a purpose behind my life besides just being a mom. Not that there was anything wrong with just being a mom, but I wanted to do something more for my family. I wanted to feel a purpose, and it just wasn't enough. And so this was my little niche of I get to do this around my kiddos' nap schedules. I get to share my story and inspire other women that are struggling with similar things. I talk to college students and busy women, moms, stay-at-home moms, work moms. And like I said, it doesn't really matter what you're struggling with, whether it's weight loss, whether it's an eating disorder, anxiety, depression, alcoholism. You have a story to share, and we are here as a support system. And that, to me, 3.5 years in, has been life-changing because I don't know where I would be had that girl on Instagram never reached out to me and said, Bree, I think you could do this. I think this is what you need. And it took her a while to convince me, but I am so glad she did because 3.5 years in, I've met my best friends. I've pulled myself. I'm not on antidepressants anymore. I take care of myself. I've learned how to prioritize self-care, and I'm creating wealth and freedom for my family that I never even could have imagined or dreamed of had I still been working at a secondhand clothing store. There was no way that avenue, that path was going to get me what I wanted to give my kids, what I wanted to leave behind, what I wanted for my family. There was no way that a manager position at a clothing store was going to get me there because I felt stuck. It wasn't my passion. It was a job to have a job. And now there is no cap. There is no end game in this. I get to dream as big as I want. I get to work when I want. And there are struggle days and there are amazing days, but we do it as a team and we have that support and structure. So thank you so much for listening. If you have questions, if you can relate to this story, if there is somebody that you think needs to hear this story, share it. Feel free. I'm really excited to dive in as to what our team does, how I would mentor you, what our lifestyle coaching is all about. So I will dive into that over the next 2 days. We have some girls going to share their stories tomorrow so you can get to know our team. And then I'll be posting and sharing a little bit more in depth the common asked questions what is coaching? What do you do? All that kind of stuff. I mentioned a little bit, but thank you so much for hopping on and listening. Have a great night. Again, if you are I'm in Bree, this is what I need, talk to me. Feel free to message me or the coach that invited you to this. I'm so excited to hang out with you guys for the next 2 days. Sorry I got emotional and cried, but that's my story. It's near and dear to my heart, and it's not easy, but I think you guys need to know, what this is all about. So Have a good night. Talk to you soon.